Hello YouTube, Logan here with Hideaway Homestead, coming to you to talk to you a little bit about fencing. So this is kind of a continuation of the suggestion from the YouTube comments to talk about my systems and what they cost and what's my plans for the future and all that stuff. So this is gonna have a little bit of goals and a little bit of systems that are in right now and systems that are gonna be. So in here is where I've been planting all my willows. I've got like the 200 or so hybrid willows, and then I've got my corkscrews and my weepings and willows and my hybrid poplars in here. I've got just a few of those. Got some ducks fenced in here, and this is a fence that I've got right now for my ducks. It was super cheap. All this was free. This came from an old pool, above ground pool that had white fence around it. And all I did was I zip tied these things together, and they hold together pretty well. And I did it around this little coop here, the pallet coop, and I've been thinking about, talking about fencing for the first video because I think it's the most versatile thing on the homestead. It's a way to contain your animals, it's a way to exclude your animals, and it's also a way to feed your animals depending on what your animals eat. So, going through in paddocks and foraging is definitely part of the fencing. What are we doing here, Ducky? Oh wow, gotta put something under this. The chickens scratched out there, and we've got it to where ducks can just walk in here now. We don't want that. Go on back out of the way, Ducky. But yeah, so it's not the best. I'll go and I'll put something there to block that. This was super quick, super cheap. This was free. It was the cost of the zip ties. So maybe, I think I got the whole bag of zip ties for something like $2. And so, you got a $2 fence, and the pallets were free, and I had some hinges. So yeah, you're looking like about $2. But yeah, we do not want the duck in here because she is going to really mess up our trees there. Get out of there. Anyway, I'll have to get her out here in a second. But I've seen tons of people do a lot of really cheap options on fencing, but we're going to talk about in this video the cheapest. So with everything, there are trade-offs. So anytime you do cheap fencing, one, it may not be that strong. So if you're trying to hold in larger animals, it may not work. Two, it may be a little labor intensive. Three, you may have to wait a while, and I'll tell you why you have to wait a while before you can use it here in just a minute. But I've seen a lot of people use pallets for fencing, and pallets can be good fencing, especially if you screw them together in like a T formation. They can be really sturdy and hold up for several years. I mean, they're always going to rot because they're made out of untreated wood, and they've got ground contact. So I mean, things are going to rot. Doing wattle and daub fencing can be, or wattle and daub or just wattle fencing can be extremely cheap. Which I guess, I don't know why I said wattle and daub. You can't do wattle and daub unless you put some kind of sealant on it to keep the rain from washing it away. But yeah, wattle fencing is great, which is just stakes driven into the ground and pieces of willow or hazel weaved in between them. You're almost like making wicker furniture, but it's a fence. And so here is what we have planned to do, and what I believe is the cheapest form of fencing, and that is hybrid willow. Now, you can use any kind of willow, and there's a lot of other trees that you could use that could make living fences. The only thing about living fences is that if you plant them, you're looking at probably at the very least on your small livestock, a year before you'd be able to put anything in there. You can plant them on 6-inch spacing and weave them together. And so a lot of your smaller livestock, if you've got chickens, little chicks might be able to squeeze through in the first couple of years, but as that weaves together and grows, you're looking at something that's gonna hold really large livestock and keep all the small stuff in. So that's what we're gonna be doing with all of our fencing, is we're gonna be planting willow fencing. And I've got a bunch here that are leafing out. Let me flip the camera around. This has been my little station for cutting here lately. And everything's starting to leaf out. I've got to get me a fence planted. Got to get a lot of these in the ground, and got to get them soon. But yeah, that's going to be our plans for fencing. It's also a food source. Not only are you getting paddocks where you're going to have forage plants and things like that in the paddocks, but the fence itself is food. There's a lot of things that'll eat willows. So you can go through and say you've got 4 sides to a fence. You can go and cut, say you cut the north end of the fence. Say it's a square. You cut the north end of the fence this year. Next year you cut the west end. Then you cut the south, then you cut the east end, and you go around in a rotation. You've got a 4-year rotation on tree hay. So you could be feeding your animals in each one of those paddocks. So say you've got a fenced in area where you've got rabbits. And then in that fenced in area, there's also, you know, say you got some ducks and other stuff like that. Kind of like what I'm gonna have. If, you know, you've got those ducks on paddocks, you can go around in each one of those paddocks, and you're talking about feeding a lot of rabbits, because a fence line or a fence row is not going to produce as much per individual tree as if you, excuse me, had them spaced out on a 5 to 10 foot spacing. But just the sheer mass of little green shoots that you're going to get off of that fencing is unbelievable. And if you go down just with a 5-gallon bucket and you start walking down, if you've got a fence that's 20 foot long, by the time you get just a few feet down it, you're gonna have that 5-gallon bucket full, especially within, you know, 4 years. So say you plant it and then you give it a year to grow, and then that next year you take one side of the fence, and then the next year you take that next side of the fence, and there you've got 2-year growth. So you're gonna get more mass of leaves. Used to in like Europe, where they would really do a lot of tree hay, there's some, I want to say it was the Norwegians, that some of those people still do it. And they say that anything like on a 5-year rotation is good. You don't want to go over 5 years, because then you're getting more wood than you are leaf matter. So anything under 5 years is a really good one, and 5 years kind of seems to be the limit on that. So you think about, you know, 3-4 years would be kind of a sweet spot. So you get, you know, anywhere from 2 to 4 year growth, you're going to get a ton of leaf matter to feed animals. If you did something like sheep, you could go through and you run the sheep through. Say you pollard everything. You know, it's going to be a fence, so it's going to be up high. The sheep ain't gonna be able to get out of it. They can graze in the area, and anytime you need to supplement that grazing, all you do is you go in there and you cut one row of the fence, and there's something for the animals to eat, or you store it all up and give it to them during the winter. So that to me is the cheapest form of fencing, not only because it's pretty much free. If you wanted to go out and get your native willows, if you've got white willows growing around, or if you've got creek willows, like people call them around here, black willows, whatever kind of willow you've got, I don't know if there is a willow that doesn't root easy. So you can go and get them. The only reason that I prefer the hybrid is just because of how fast it grows. So I've been selling some hybrid willows. I sold some at the mushroom workshop we had. I've sold some cuttings online, and it's definitely something, you know, if you, I tell everybody that buys the hybrid willows from me, I'm like, you will never buy from me again unless you plant your willow in diesel fuel, pretty much. Or you just stick it out in the middle of an area where it gets literally no water. I mean, you have to kind of try to kill them. You gotta tend to them. You know, I mean, you gotta baby them a little bit when they're getting started. But as long as you can get them started and you get some good trees, like, you will have all the cuttings that you ever want. You're never gonna buy them again. It's a one-time sale type thing. So yeah, you know, if you can get you some good willows that you know are going to grow fast. There's some others that grow pretty fast. The hybrid is the fastest that I know of. But yeah, definitely look into planting willow fences, and I'll be having some videos on some little, we're going to do really just kind of not really any paddock areas. We might do a little paddock area here maybe over on our 9-acre property, but it'll probably be just a fence line of willows. So that'll be coming soon. Have a video on that. If anybody's got any questions, go ahead and drop those down below. If you thought this video was helpful, please leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, go ahead and do so. I drop a video like this mostly every day. It's starting to rain. I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate all y'all watching, and we'll see you in the next one.